Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Tuesday Talks with Angelo Datseris, our resident knowledge broker for all things home financing, mortgages, and everything in between. And Ashley Hanna, myself, your North Carolina and South Carolina, Charlotte metro area residential real estate agent. Wow, I chose some tongue twisters today for the intro. So bear with me 1 second while I get Angelo on.
You did have some tongue twisters, so tongue twisters right there.
I was like, that was interesting.
Yeah, well, it's counting down before it connected. That's the last thing I heard before it connected, so that's interesting. What's going on? How you been?
Oh, we're just
Bobbing and weaving?
yeah, we're I have just been doing a lot of creative things to help clients lately. Find houses, sell houses, just doing what we need to do.
Right. Hey, Zozo.
How about you?
Let's see if you can see her. Oh, hi, Zoe.
Hi, puppy dog.
Hi.
Hi. Oh,
All
sweetest.
right.
Star.
Yeah, sorry about that. She was just on my leg, so I was like, hey, introduce her. Yeah, it's just it's been crazy. So I'd like, we're working on a few deals together, and I thought it was kind of creative what you did with the issue that we had to make. Oh, thanks, WS Inspect. I thought it was pretty creative what you did there to kind of make amends with.
Yeah.
I would have never thought about that. So I mean, props.
So what we're talking about, we have a client that we're working with right now, and the appraisal, and I am representing both sides of the transaction, and the appraisal for the buyers came back $10,000 short of list price. So this was my first time doing this, and I know you've probably contested a few appraisals.
Yeah, I've had just a few in my day.
Yeah. So this is my first time really, trying to, I guess, help the appraiser come up with the value of the house.
With additional comps, value.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, he came up a little bit. He came up a little bit with the comps.
We got him to come up 2,000.
Yeah, 2,000. It's better than nothing. But
yeah.
But still, it wasn't where we needed to hit it. And so, I like what you did with the buyer and the seller, because it's a domino effect in this particular case. It's a domino effect with each. So I like how you're able to lower the price, negotiate the price down a little, but also have the the buyer pay a little bit more over to kind of offset that. So you made the deal work. That's really what it's kind of all about. To make these deals work and make everybody happy. So.
Thanks.
Good job on that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's tough. I think, especially, when in an area like this particular transaction is located, where I happen to do a lot of sales in this area. However, I read an article that while homes are going under contract, while they're in escrow, they are appreciating, like in that 30-day time window.
Because there's sales that happen.
Yeah.
There's sales that happen, and I don't mean to interrupt. So I'll let you finish, and then I'll interject. But yeah.
No, yeah, exactly what you were saying. There's sales that are happening, and just the list price in the MLS, at least for the Charlotte metro area, 99.8% of the time, I think I looked at the stats this morning, you're going above list price. So I think it's hard to be an appraiser because the market is changing very rapidly, right, in a very short period of time.
Right.
But, so they have to account for that. And I feel like it is my job as an agent to help give them as much information as possible, while also making sure not to persuade them to get a number that we need.
Yeah. And in this particular case too, there was, when an appraiser does the inspection, he puts a timestamp on it. He puts a date on it. So if there's sales that happen a week later than when he actually did his inspection that had a higher appraisals for similar homes, he can't count those. If they're not closed, they're definitely not going to count them. Well, in this particular case, they didn't. But we made a good case for it. But yeah, so it's that little window. We just happened to you had some additional sales that happened after he appraised that property, so we couldn't count those sales that were higher in value. And it was just unfortunate, honestly. It really was.
Yeah. I hate it because these are our clients' money, and it could be very frustrating to them because $8,000 means something to our buyers and sellers. This is either money that they have to bring to the table in the case of the buyers, or money that they're going to lose from the net sales if they're the sellers. So, it could be really kind of scary for clients, but that's why it's important, and what I always try to do, and Angelo does a good job of helping me and supporting me in this, is communicating with our clients okay, here's what we got, here are options, and here's what we're going to do. Right. We don't necessarily know that it's not going to guarantee an outcome that we want, but at least it's something. We know that we did everything we could to represent our clients and build a case for our clients the best way possible.
Right. And you present, and you give them possible solutions to, problems that arise throughout a transaction. So, and you're giving buyers options, because they're not going to know what to do.
Yeah.
That's what they have us for. And so, we look at all options. You look at the options on the selling side of it, and I look at the options on the financing side of it. So, I think someone asked a question, WS Inspect, does it have to appraise for offer amount to complete the transaction if the buyer wants to? So when it comes to that, Ash, do you want me to go ahead and speak on that question?
Go for it.
Yeah. So when it comes to that, WS Inspect, when you have a sales price at, let's say, 300, and the appraisal comes in at 290, the lender is going to use the 290 figure. They use the lesser of the two. So they're not going to use that sales price to figure out the percentage for the financing. They're only going to finance the appraised value or the sales price, the lower of the two. So everything will have to be adjusted down, and then the buyer can then not outside of closing, but just out of pocket, that's not included in that financing package, that can pay that difference off in cash.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps.
Yep. So and how I explain it is, so the lender, if you're buying a house, the lender is only going to give you, $290,000 based on that appraised value. So correct. If you have a contract for 300, there's a $10,000 difference. So the options are either one, you go to the seller and you ask for them to lower it to the appraised value. Two, you can come to an agreement on if you're going to pay $5,000 over appraised value and ask the seller to drop it by $5,000, that's a way to do it. But regardless, that $10,000 gap has to be accounted for, whether it's by lowering the purchase price or coming to the table with additional funds on the buy side and dropping the price on the sale side.
Right. Yeah. You just have to renegotiate to try to make the deal work. Yeah.
Yep. So, I posted something earlier today too about the amount of equity that homeowners have realized over the last, I think it was a year. And for North Carolina, it was $21,000 on average, like price appreciation on homes that they owned, like in 2020.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a good return on investment.
Yeah. In South Carolina, it was 18,000. And, you know, I see, like, I've heard a lot of chatter. I don't know, Angelo, like what you have heard out in the mortgage world, but about, is this going to be a similar housing bubble situation that we experienced in 08, 07?
No, this is not going to be like that, because the toxic, not the subprime mortgage, it caused the collapse back in 2007, 2008, because you had all of these adjustable rate mortgages that people did stated income, no documentation loans, stated their income with a 600 credit score, that they made $100,000 just to get approved for a loan. They couldn't, and they're on these crazy adjustable rate, arms, 2 or 3 year arms, and then they would adjust up. And when they adjusted up, it went probably from like an $800 payment to like a $1,600 payment. So that is 100% not the case in this. In this, there's right now, we got to think about it too. Right now, excuse me, the appreciation is for, the demand too, and the lack of inventory, so it's a little bit different than and a lot of the mortgages right now they're all 90% of them are conventional. There's some non-QM, which is non-conventional mortgage, that are for investment properties, business use loans, and things like that. That it's not the same. It's not the same, and you have to have more skin in the game. You're not getting 100% financing an investment property like you did in 2005, 6, and 7. There's no doc loans anymore, and if there's loans that are based on rent roll. What the property's bringing in for an operating rent schedule. So we're not. It's not just like the wild, wild west anymore. There's reasons that, there's safeguards in place. Dodd-Frank Act.
Stricter requirements.
Yeah. You have to, it's a law now. You have to prove ability to repay. That is written law, that the lenders have to prove ability to repay. And so you have to have documentation. You have to have tax returns, and things like that. So no, I do not think at all that there's going to be like some ridiculous housing bubble where everybody's going to lose their jobs and the crash is imminent. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, you hit on the 3 I guess like arguments why this is not like it was back then. You literally got them all. This is an article from Keeping Current Matters. So the first one they give, the rationale is housing supply, right? So a balanced real estate inventory market sits around 7 months. That means there's 6 months of inventory available on the market for buyers, right? So in today's market, we're at 1.9 months on average. And on top of that, inventory this isn't the first year that we've experienced an inventory shortage on the real estate side either. I mean, for several years, we've had less than 5 months of inventory in most markets. Whereas prior to, right, when the crash happened in 2005 to 2007, you experienced they had inventory levels by the most part from 5 to 11 months. So that means that there's an oversupply of houses, because you want 6 for a balanced market. And, I think that supply and demand, that's what's going to drive it, right? I do think it's interesting. I read something too that there is a lot more investors in our market. So like,
They
as
come out of the
I,
woodwork. I
yeah,
have talked to so many people that are buying investment properties and beach homes, second because rates are so low, it makes sense. It makes sense for a lot of people where, it maybe didn't before. So yeah, they came out of the woodwork.
I I don't know if this is true. I think I saw this in a real estate Facebook group I'm in, but the lending requirements, are they
Are different.
changing for, are they going up for like secondary homes or
Oh
investment?
yeah. Yep. Fannie and Freddie have released a statement saying that there's going to be a price increase. It's called an LLPA, a loan level pricing adjustment for all non-owner occupieds and second homes, to where also too, they don't want to have more than a certain percentage of those loans kind of on their books anymore. So it's going to be more expensive for investment properties and investment loans going forward.
Yeah, I thought I saw that. And I think that that is going to help, right? That's going to help. Not that like we don't want to discourage, right? If it is the right move for you, then that adjustment, right, shouldn't deter you from making that decision if it makes sense.
Correct.
But I do
Correct.
think it will help regular consumers that are trying to enter the housing market and they don't have the cash to spare. Um, that they can throw around. I saw somebody else like mention a comment too about, I guess maybe in some states, there's like a 5-day wait on, if you have multiple offers on a property, a 5-day window where they're not going to take offers unless it's being used as their primary residence, something like that. Or they're waiting 5 days to take offers from investors or people not using it as their primary residence, which I thought was okay. I thought that was interesting. I'm not really sure how it gets worded though, because I don't
Yeah,
know.
I haven't seen that. Yeah, if you find that, send it over.
Yeah.
So that loan level pricing adjustment goes into effect for Fannie Mae loans on April 1st. And so basically,
Okay.
um, it's just saying, yeah, that there's a restriction, a 7% limit on acquisition of single family mortgage loans secured by second home and investment properties. And that kind of, it was an amendment from their senior preferred stock agreement with, I guess, stockholders. So that's kind of why that came into play.
Wait,
Um,
so they're saying they don't want to, you said they don't want to have any more than 7%?
that one of the restrictions is a 7% limit on acquisition of single family mortgage loans. So I'd like to maybe do a little research on that 7% limit, but I think 7%, what I would think is on their books as of
Yeah.
going forward after April 1st, they want to limit like a 7%, maybe that people have, but that's just, let me see if I can figure out exactly.
Because that's interesting because I wonder what they're carrying right now on the books.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's probably quite a bit.
I mean, I would say on the listings that I've had this year, I've had 4 or 5 listings, and the offers that we've gotten so on average, I'd say we get about 7 offers on a house. I'd say 3 of those offers, so 3 and 7 are from investors. Isn't that crazy? 3 and 7 offers.
That's
I mean, some
crazy.
people might be getting more, but I've seen on a minimum of 3.
Wow.
And they're coming with
Yeah.
all cash.
Yeah. Yeah. Cash is king.
But
Cash will win the deal.
yeah, the problem is, and this is what I tell my clients on the listing side, I say a lot of times too, they'll come with an addendum on it, and it's not a standard state of North Carolina or South Carolina part of a contract that real estate agents deal with. So I'm not familiar with it. So when that's the case, I always advise my clients that we should consult with an attorney if you decide, if you want to pursue this offer further, because there's a lot of loopholes in there, most likely, I would think, for them to be able to back out. Because I don't necessarily think, it's great if you could buy a house with cash, but I don't think that cash is king. I mean, cash is king. That's how the saying goes. But I mean, I just think that, like, if you have a conventional loan and a cash offer, like, I would argue in some instances, and this is like purely opinion, that I don't see a difference. I don't think one is more stronger than the other sometimes.
Right. You're breaking up a little bit there. I'm not
sure.
Oh,
you like froze for a second. I'm like, wait, did I just like really make you mad?
No. You broke up for a minute. I couldn't hear exactly what you said. You were breaking up. So,
that's probably for the best. No.
Okay. All right. If you say so. If you say so. Yeah. So let me ask you this. When it comes to winning deals, is speed a factor in getting deals closed? Like if we have an appraisal waiver, or we can get it closed in like 2 weeks, or 2.5 weeks versus a month or a month and a half, do you see that as a deciding factor with some, or no?
I think an appraisal waiver would help win. But as far as speed to close, I'm not seeing that being a huge benefit.
Really?
In probably 80% of cases, because a lot of times these sellers have to find a place to live. So
that's right. Yeah.
Bingo. So
okay.
that's something interesting. That's a good question, Angelo. And I think, like, what I'm seeing helps win is if you have an appraisal waiver on a property. I think that's huge. I think if you can, yes, you're going to get inspections, but if you can set an expectation to where you are only going to ask for large, like, items that compromise the structural and or safety of the house, that those are the only repairs that you would ask for, I think that is a benefit to sellers, that would make your offer more competitive. I think if it's a clean offer too, like everything's filled out properly. Like you should be working with a real estate agent, and that real estate agent should be filling out the offer to purchase and contract and all other pertinent documents, any disclosures, anything like that, completely and fully. I think that's a huge factor as well.
I'm glad you bring that up. Because I don't know how many contracts I've seen come across my desk that don't have listing information filled out, or the buyer's information filled out on, like, for the contract information, or the selling agent, buyer's agent list. We as a lender, we have to set up that file in closing, because that has to go on the closing disclosure. So we need that information, and when we don't have it, that's just going to slow everybody down. We have to go searching for it, have to reach out to people,
It's frustrating.
So thank you for having clean, completed sales contracts when they get to me, Ashley. Thank you so much, because it drives me freaking nuts when a contract is not filled out. I'm like, come on.
I know, you're like, what? I get like so embarrassed when especially when I'm the listing agent and I see some of these like contracts come through. I'm very embarrassed sometimes for people. And listen, I've made a mistake before on a deal that we had together. I left out a 0. I caught it, but not as quickly as I would have liked. I left off a 0 on the due diligence line, and I was like, oh my God. And it took me a second, and I'm like, oh my God, I thought I caught it. And people kept being like, what is this?
well, that's different than not filling out,
Yes.
completely. But yeah, that was
Yeah.
just a minor faux pas.
But
But yeah,
that's important.
very, 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 very important. I mean, because we need the firm's license number, we need the agent's license number, because we're the ones that put that on the closing disclosure. It's us that do it. You know what I'm saying? So we need that information. It's important that we have all that information.
I
Um,
saw so the North Carolina Real Estate Commission every month, or yeah, I think it's every month, they send out like a newsletter basically. And in there, there's usually a list of people who have had disciplinary action, like licensed agents in the state of North
ooh,
Carolina with disciplinary action. And
really?
so, and they published a name and everything and what the problem is, like what the action or I guess violation was. And a lot of times I like there for a while, I haven't seen one in a minute, but a lot of times you'll see an agent is being disciplined or, having their license like suspended or whatever because they haven't put the firm license on an offer to purchase and contract. That has come up a lot, like their own firm license. Like, so that's not like, I mean, so I read those every month and I'm just like, wow, like that, how terrible is that you get in trouble, right? And it goes all the way to the commission because you're not putting your own firm license on an offer to purchase and contract. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with us. I mean, if I don't have my NMLS number on my company and my personal NMLS number,
Yeah.
that's a violation. It is literally a violation of code. So it's an issue. It is a big issue. I mean,
Yeah.
we're regulated a little bit more heavily than the banking. I'm sorry, but the real estate industry. But yeah, I could. It's easy to do. You know the number. You should know the number by heart. All you gotta do is just
Oh,
type
I
it in there.
don't. I gotta look it up every time.
Let's rewind for a second. You should have that number written down somewhere close to your computer. How about that?
Oh yeah, I have stickies everywhere with that number on it, but I lose them. So
There you go.
listen,
Okay.
I know my weakness, so I just look it up.
So, I mean, I'm not sure how much time you have today, but I want to get into the Zillow not argument, but like what Zillow has been doing, their tactics, trying to push out agents. And and you know me, I am not a fan of Zillow. I'm not a fan of Rocket Mortgage. I'm not a fan of those fintech companies. So why hasn't NAR done anything about it? They're your voice. Why have they not? Are they in bed with them? Like they're gonna get beat up by Zillow. Zillow's gonna own the world if somebody doesn't stop them. But
I worry. So we've actually our MLS here in the Charlotte metro area that I'm a member of, and our state association of realtors that I'm a member of, actually asked us to not mention Zillow by name because now they are a member and are a firm.
you can't talk bad about another agency,
Right.
blah blah blah. You're not talking. Yeah. Anyways,
No, I'm
sorry,
not. And yeah,
sorry.
no, I'm totally comfortable with speaking about it because, I think that in the real estate industry for a long time, I've thought there needs to be changes, right? It would appear to the consumer that the National Association of Realtors must be getting some kind of benefit from Zillow. Well, for them allowing Zillow to become a firm and being licensed and being a part of the MLS and in states, because it's very, it is very complicated, and I don't know why. I don't really understand it enough to speak with any kind of authority on the topic. I've read a little bit up on it, but here's my spill on Zillow, and this has been my spill on Zillow since I started in real estate and I started to learn how it works. I think that Yes. Do I think that their app for searching on homes is user friendly and easy to use? Blah. Yes, I do. It is one of the most visited apps in the country. Like, I mean, no doubt, right? There's SNL skits about it.
Yeah.
But do I think that it is like they are deceiving consumers in the fact that like when you click reach out to an agent or reach out to a broker that they're literally selling your information to real estate agents and mortgage brokers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, insurance people, your information is sold for top dollar.
Right.
And I think that's wrong because I don't think that that information is made really clear to consumers. So
Right.
their phone starts to blow up, right? And they don't understand who they're talking to or why. So that's one thing that I always try to advise my clients on. I'm like, yeah, if you want to search for homes using the Zillow app, absolutely do it, right? But don't click on anything on there unless you want a new real estate agent and mortgage broker, right? Because you'll have to get a new phone number essentially to have them stop calling you. So I just say screenshot it and send it to me and I'll be more than happy to take it from there. Right. I think I don't like the fact, like, I think it's kind of interesting when real estate firms offer like mortgage services as well. And I know Zillow is starting to do that. I do think that at some point, like, what is a monopoly?
Right. Yeah. And exactly. And Open Doors doing the same thing. They're
right.
providing mortgage services.
Which I don't agree with.
Yeah, no. And what sucks about that is because they're not regulated like we are.
Really?
Because it's a fintech company. They're not regulated. Like Zillow and Open Door, there's no regulation that has come in and like capped what their service charges are or anything like that. Because like we're capped. I'm capped. You're capped. There is no regulation. It's for these fintech companies.
Wait. So I thought you don't have to be like, you're not part of some national like licensing organization to be able to like offer like mortgages to consumers.
I don't know about the mortgage part of it, but the selling the homes part of it, because it's just now I've seen a client that was going to sell but then decided not to sell and then just got a quote from Open Door, and when he canceled the contract with them, they reached out to him and said, oh, if you're going to refinance, we have mortgage services that we can provide you as well. So I don't know how they're doing it, but I know as they're just the real estate part of it, they're a fintech company, so they're not regulated by National Association of Realtors. They're not regulated by the Commissioner of Banks. They're not regulated by NMLS. Like, they're not regulated at all, so they can do whatever they want.
That's really scary.
Yeah.
And that's a good point that you just mentioned, because I had there was something with an Open Door listing here recently that I had a client interested, and but I found out that they don't necessarily have to abide by the same rules as like licensed real estate agents in the Charlotte metro area, because they own the house. So they can kind of do, since they're an owner now, they can do whatever they want, because that's like how they, and I was just like, hold the phone, because that is scary.
Yeah.
They're licensed and now they're the agent. And then like, I'm like, I don't know. I think that like, I just worry for consumers, because it is so easy for them to get, for them to be dazzled by the marketing, right? Because they have really deep pockets and they're everywhere. And I worry, because I don't think that consumers are understanding the implications and the rules that these big companies have to follow.
They don't.
I do think that there's going to have to be some changes, like, and I think they're going to have to come rapidly. I was very surprised how quickly Zillow ended up being all of a sudden becoming a member of the MLS.
So
here.
their whole, I've been doing this a long time, and I'll send you videos and stuff, but their whole thing, they promised
Oh yeah.
that they were not going to become a brokerage. They were not going to do this and not be part of the MLS. They said that's not, and then what do? They become it. And every realtor and every mortgage person that buys Zillow leads, you are feeding the beast that is trying to own you.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Why? If you are, if you're a student of the industry and you want to be in this industry for a long time, just don't do it. I mean, I mean, you know me, I can get on a soapbox for this, and I don't want to, but because it kind of makes my blood boil. But the people, they don't realize what the damage that they're doing to themselves. Look now. I mean, I know how, like, if you either list a property on Zillow, they'll try to undermine you and undercut you and try to, kind of put doubt in your brain about the agent that you're working with's quality and to be able to represent you and the home and to sell it. So they try to get you over to them. I just think it's dirty. It's dirty tactics, and I don't agree with it.
Well, it's just not ethical, in my opinion. Like,
No.
and in any time that you are misleading people, right? They're misleading real estate agents who have for years paid them millions, billions.
That's why they got to this. That's why they've got to this level that they have, because it's on the backs of insurance, mortgage, and real estate.
And it's so interesting. Like, think about in any other industry, who is going to pay their competitor for like information? I mean, it is very odd. The whole thing is very odd. Like, why would you pay Zillow, right, to get leads, essentially, right, from listings that you already have access to because you're a member of the MLS Society? It's just, it's very strange to me. And I thought, when I first got into real estate, I just remember being like, wait, what? Like, that just was so odd to me, because it just doesn't make sense. Like, why would you ever, and granted, they weren't a competitor at the time. They've only recently become a competitor. But anytime someone's saying, oh no, we'll never do this, I have a problem. I mean, I just think that's weird. Like, we'll never, they're in the business to make money, like, no doubt. And they're going to go where the money goes.
Right.
But I've seen something recently too about, like, Open Door and things like that on their, like, iBuyer programs. A lot of these companies are running, have consistently been running in the red. Consistently. They are not profitable off those things. So that's even more disturbing, because that means they're getting money from somewhere, and it's not the iBuyer program, which is what they advertise usually.
Right.
It's from fees and other ancillary charges.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we could probably do a podcast about this, so we won't get into any more detail.
But I do think if y'all are out, if anyone has questions, like, about this specifically, please send them our way, because I find that, like, since we're, like, so close to it, Angelo, a lot of times, like, we don't think of, like, some of the, Right. And so I feel like maybe somebody has some better questions that we can even, like, dive deeper into or research more to kind of explain this monster that is looming.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I mean, maybe we'll talk about Rocket next time. Rocket is paying their loan officers to be real estate agents. Think about that.
What?
Yep. Yeah. So they get the real estate under Rocket Real Estate, which they have a Rocket Real Estate company now, and they're incentivizing loan officers to be real estate agents and they'll give the real estate agents 0.5% and like an incentive to bring people in. It's insane. It is 1,000% insane, and we can definitely get into it at some point.
But yeah, that is, I mean, anytime just be careful, right? And please give us your questions on this. Like
Yeah,
any
please.
questions you have, because then it kind of gives us like a frame of reference to go down, um, and and make sure that we're
You're right. And what do you think about, like, I want to know what other
yeah,
people on the outside think about, like, Realtor.com. And so I don't have a problem with Realtor.com or Trulia or any of those other ones, you know, but
yeah,
Zillow is the one that I have a problem with. And what I don't think what they're doing to real estate agents is right. I don't think it's right. And you know, this is my livelihood and you're not going to take it.
absolutely.
Sorry.
And I think if anyone has like experience, either positive or negative, where they either worked with an agent from one of these companies or used their iBuyer program or anything like that, or
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
received lending or something, and you want to share your experience or you don't mind sharing your experience, we'd love to hear about it.
Yep. Well, thanks for joining, everybody. Until next week, thanks, Ash. Always good talks.
Yes, it was
And
very good talk today.
well, we'll see everybody next week. Like us, follow us, share us, please ask questions, comment, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.